Call roll, please. Irvin. Guerrero. Here. Kent.
Here.
Leeper. Here. Pearson.
Here.
Stahl. Welby.
Yeah, here.
Mr. Beverly, would you lead us in the pledge?
Yeah.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to go a little bit out of order this evening. We have some teachers that have come to update us on some things that we had asked for. So, Mr. Britton, we'll let you start.
The three lovely teachers over there, Mrs. Cummings, Mrs. Hawkins, and Mrs. Wheeler. Mrs. Cummings.
I'm lovely, but I'm not.
I was going to say.
They're all lovely teachers. Mrs. Cummings is here to talk about Fountain Spinell, and the other two are going to talk about how the attendance centers have been going.
Okay. Monica's also talking about that.
So whichever one is the most nervous can go first, I guess.
We're all going in front of you. So you just go.
Oh.
So this is silly, I used to talk to you guys all the time, but tonight I'm nervous. Wait for my team.
We've been asked to come and kind of talk to you guys about attendance centers and how we feel they've gone this year. And we wanted to start off by saying attendance centers themselves have gone very well. The kids are settled in, they seem to enjoy being together. We enjoy our group of teachers, so much so that we just left our faculty meeting and came here. And at least one of our teachers would have met until at least 9 o'clock if she could have. But yeah, Jessica likes her faculty meetings.
Great.
Yes. But we realized too, with the attendance centers, departmentalization came with that and some changes in our building that have presented some challenges this year that we didn't quite anticipate as being as stressful as they ended up being. And we hope this year that we have sheltered the kids from that stress. They seem to be having a great year. But as far as our staff goes, we have had a lot of problem solving and decisions to make this year. And we just kind of wanted to share with you some of the positives and challenges that we're still working on.
So I didn't know if you guys had, I know you were aware of all of the changes, but just to put it on paper, all of the new things that have happened in our building this year. Actually, all but 2 teachers in our building physically changed rooms.
And jobs.
There are only 2 people in the building who are doing what they did last year in the same place they did it. So we spent a lot of time at the beginning of the year just completely recreating a learning environment. We have 5 staff members who are completely new to the district: our PE teacher, our music teacher, our special ed teacher, the secretary, and our nurse. We're completely new to the district. So just getting them adjusted to how we do things and to their new jobs. We have 5 staff members who are returning to the district but doing completely new jobs. The 3rd and 4th grade ELA teachers, our interventionist, Mrs. Janbrin, our library aide, and our RTI aide are all doing jobs that they've never done before. We have 3 teachers who are in the same positions but in a new building and doing it in a different way by departmentalizing. We have a different administrative setup. So the sharing Mr. Britton with the middle school is different for us. We're not used to not having him available all the time. That was a little bit different and a bit of an adjustment for us. And probably the biggest new thing for us is departmentalizing. There have been some really good things that came out of that. One is these kids are squirrely. So it gives them an opportunity every 80 minutes to get up and move. We all know that sometimes you have a teacher who you work better with than others, so it exposes kids to different teaching styles and different personalities. And hopefully it's allowing us each to become experts in a field. I'm not saying we all are yet, but hopefully we're becoming experts there. And I think Mrs. Cummings is becoming the expert with Fountain Spinell. She's had more people from other districts come watch her the last 2 years. I think we should be getting a kickback. So when we get the quote, make sure you let them know.
It should be free for us.
Yes. So I think she was going to talk a little bit about Fountain Spinell.
We're actually going to have more visitors, which I'm not talking about, but on Tuesday when we come back. So Fountain Spinell, first of all, I just want to thank you because I know the sticker price was a shock. So what did you buy? You bought a place for the children to be engaged in literature. all over the room. It is very enlightening to come in. Honestly, it's the first time that I felt like the instruction is pushing the educator. So the educator is pushing the instruction. The kids are reading the book. So let me just give you some examples. You start off with an IRA, which looks like this. So this is your independent interactive read aloud. And so I'll be honest, with everything that is new and the pendulum swings, I had given up sitting down and reading read aloud to a child. That puts that back in. You do a lot of turn and talks. The kids turn and they share what they think. The first 5 minutes, you're talking about your purpose and what their purpose is in reading this. This one is about the theme, and it goes along with several books, is showing kindness. This is the first theme of the year. So you start off, you might be talking about character traits, you give them something to be listening for when you're reading the book, and then they turn and talk, and you have a lot of questioning. The pie that you see in front of you is an example of some of the think within the text, think beyond. So a lot of synthesizing questions, something that it is right there for you. So this is a folder as the instructor you get. So this is verbatim, what you ask the students, and then the questions that they might generate even. It outlines that. It gives you a word work day. It gives you something, the response. So what am I going to come write about today? So really, I feel like this is the Bible that just leads your instruction. So this has really been a nice, this is what you used to use. You've all seen it. The kids carry it around. They don't want to open it. You don't want to open it. Page 76, would you please open this? We're going to read the story today. We're going to read the story tomorrow. We're going to read the story Wednesday, and then you're going to come home, you're going to read it to your parents, and then you're going to come home Friday, and you're going to take a test that looks like this. Okay, so we're not checking comprehension, we're checking memorization. So then you are then meeting with students at their level. This was examples of that theme, but then you're going to meet with students at their level, at their guided reading level, with books like this. So I'm going to actually give you one of these, and you tell me that you would not be interested in something as vivid and intriguing as some of these books allow. 1,500 titles is what we have in our library for just third grade. So we've been able to share it in third grade. We have been using it for our TI. Sometimes every once in a while, Mrs. Wheeler will shoot us a hey. And even our special ed in middle school has reached out. So I do feel like it has been very beneficial. The kids respond to the writing. This is just one example. I just thought I'd throw it in there. This is just an example of different responses from students throughout the year. So I got to be the sunshine of the day and tell you what is wonderful and that's up and deep. So
Is it easy to track? One of the teachers down in the other building in open house mentioned that loved being able to have the students reading at their level, no matter what. Is that easy to track? Are you able to know exactly where they are?
And if you don't do it, which we'll talk about later, with some of the blocks, limitations, they say, you never met with us. They're asking you. They're one. So it's 15, 20 minutes. You're meeting with them. You're hearing them read almost every day.
Oh, wow.
So that's good. Yeah. Everything is at your fingertips. Reading records, literature, reteaching. So it is a different ballgame when you talk about grading. You gotta switch your gears on that. There's no assessments that come with the program.
And what we're doing now, are you primarily doing it just in the third grade?
I've been borrowing because borrowing what she had, even though it was at a lower level, and making it fit fourth grade was better than the basals that the fourth grade had.
Okay.
So I've been using her themed books and just kind of upping the questions. I've been using her guided reading except with my highest groups, and we've been doing novels. But my lower groups, I've been able to use her guided reading materials, so we've been sharing pretty easily this year. We just make sure we're not doing the same thing in the same week. I mean, it would be better if I had, you know, the fourth grade material, obviously, but we've been able to share and just make sure that I'm taking it, you know, I look at the fourth grade standards and make sure that I'm taking those books and picking it up a notch. It is a little bit hard to make sure that I'm getting in an 80-minute block. I don't know, that's one thing with the departmentalizing, having an 80-minute block. I know Mrs. Cummings gave you kind of their outline of how much time should be spent on each component. It's hard to get that done in 80 minutes. Actually, you can't get that done in 80 minutes. So there are times when we can't meet with a guided reading group, and that's when the kids are asking, you haven't met with me, you know, we haven't done guided reading this week. So we kind of have to do a lesson one day, do guided reading the next day. Just with departmentalizing, it's hard to get to guided reading every day.
And on there you'll see the word work for this year. I'll be honest, this came pretty late. I was struggling trying to integrate it. I'm very excited about trying to get that going next year. So we're kind of using this as an RTI component, but this is what I'm hoping to get in their fingertips. And so those are folders with a plethora of materials ready to go for the WordWorks and the Word Study program.
I think as a team, we are begging every time we see Mr. Field, when's it coming in? We just asked him again tonight that we are eagerly awaiting those fourth and fifth grade level materials. Because in my teaching career, it's been the most exciting reading possibilities. We're very excited about it, and it's great for the kids.
Glad to hear.
So thank you, and thank you for leading.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
It's been great.
We kind of jumped out of our plan.
Sorry.
He does that
I'll
a
jump
lot.
back in. Other positives, that we've seen our attendance centers and departmentalization in specific is the teamwork aspect. We have worked very, very hard as a team in different teams this year. And I was just noting, I actually have both of my teams here tonight. It's great to have a teaching team, and Mrs. Wood and I have said that for years, that there's nothing better than having that co-teacher mentality, the team teaching aspect, so that we can specialize and focus. She knows the math standards probably verbatim. I know the ELA standards, and we can specialize and really, really make our instruction fit those standards and fit our students a little bit more specialized and a little bit more consistently. But then in that too, this is the first year I felt I had a reading team. And this team has met multiple times doing a lot of vertical planning. What are you guys working on? And it's kind of fun to see similar things that we're working on. We've shared a ton of materials this year and working with them and getting those standards vertically aligned and knowing the consistency that my students coming in next year have all come from Debbie's reading classes. So whatever I know she accomplished, I have a group that is equally prepared, as opposed to in the past we've had groups coming from 3 different teachers with very different curriculums, very different reading styles and teaching styles, and there's a lot of figuring out, okay, this group has done this group has done this group has done something else, and it's very consistent now that they've all been with Mrs. Hawkins this year, so I'm looking forward to that quite a bit.
Love to hear that, because that was our goal, streamlining everything and getting everyone on the same page, moving in the same direction, so love that aspect of it.
And I'll say even 5th graders were in our room for a celebration today. And one of the students looked up and said, Ace, answer, cite, explain, we're doing that. So they're starting to see even the terminology. We're talking a lot about keeping the vocab the same because we are just using them with lots of different terms. So we're getting closer.
I've got all questions.
We are, as we are working, there have been several challenges this year that we have had to address with departmentalizing, just getting used to that team mentality. We did have several islands of teachers in our former structure we had one kindergarten teacher in our old building, and it was she was on her own. So getting used to dealing with a team has been a new form of communication. Getting those classroom policies, those kinds of things all on the same page and consistent has been a challenge to work together. And I don't remember.
But it's been exciting, because it's the first year in 23 years that I've had a co-teacher I could go to and ask for their advice on something that I was doing. I've never had that before, ever. So that's exciting.
I know one of the things we had mentioned too that we're facing is our technology challenge, that we have several more students now in that intermediate building, and our technology seems to be, a lot of the time is taken up with math testing and what's going to become IIR testing on the computer, that we're not getting in there a lot for ELA to be typing, researching some of those kinds of standards. And that's something we feel we may need to look at in the future, that we have kind of a technology need there to either add a lab, to add a mobile lab, something so that we can continue to have that technology component too.
And we're kind of looking forward to a year of stability to, this year was a lot of changes, so we're looking forward to a year to kind of adjust and get things down pat.
And one of the struggles that we have is the 80-minute blocks, and we're all in 80-minute blocks, so that locks us into many times less flexibility. So for an example, now we all know the programs give the ideal of how many hours and minutes, and I don't think 3 hours is even, that's probably very dreamy, but then to break down just even the F&P that we feel is really making a difference down to 80 minutes. It is an obstacle that we have definitely endured. My personal, on the 3rd grade level, they're 8-year-olds coming to us, and it is hard. It is hard for them sometimes to be able to move the classrooms. They have done very well. But, so that has been just a personal obstacle. Is it possibly that I've taught 23 years of self-contained? Easily could be. But just thinking about some children, the only thing that is consistent in their life is the teacher. Sometimes it's the backpack that travels between home and home. So sometimes that's a challenge.
So I think to summarize, we've had a lot of positives. We're working through other things to make them positive, brainstorming together, working as a team. We're looking forward to getting settled next year and being able to take that a step further.
It all sounds wonderful. Thank you for coming. Thank you for filling us in. Mr. Britt, do you have anything to add to that? Oh, we have Monica here.
Yes, I'm gonna need that. I'm gonna tell you, because they're gonna have my head if I don't bring it back.
Are you happily adjusted?
Let's just say it's a continual work in progress. That's for sure.
Okay. Okay, and from that point, we don't have any other visitors, correct?
Correct.
Thank you guys very, very much.
Thank you.
And we want to move on to new business?
Yeah, I think, if we switch this around, Sharon, we can get through this and Sharon can get on the road and
Okay,
get back up north.
sounds like a good idea.
So as far as new business, we have to decide, we did receive your board packets in a much more timely manner, thanks to Carol and delivering those. But hopefully you had a chance to look through all the material. I don't think there was hardly enough, material. I don't know how many thousands of pages it turned out to be, but it's very, extensive and a lot to try to digest. And I think that the main thing to remember is tonight is just, we're not spending any money yet, we're approving them as the provider, and then we will still have an opportunity to sit down, with the NG, so to speak, and pick and choose, of what we wanna move forward with.
Into the details. And they were our only bid?
Correct.
Alright, so then at this point this evening, is there anything you want to add or want to say? Okay, So we need a motion to select NG as the chosen qualified provider to provide energy efficiency and building modernization services to the district in one or more project phases over the next 10 years.
So moved.
Motion made by Martha Leeper, is there a second?
Second.
Linda Weldy, call roll please.
Guerrero,
Yes?
Kent,
Yes.
Leeper, yes. Pearson,
Yes.
Weldy.
Yes.
And then, we do have a resolution here that I won't bore you with, but it will be at Mr. Meadows if anyone would like to read it.
I'll include it with the motion page, and I don't know if we could probably put that in the newspaper as well. But the motion, it spells out very clearly, and I probably should have gotten this to you with the rest of the board packet, that kind of oversight on my part, but it does spell out exactly where we're at and what's next, so I think it's a good little piece of documentation, so,
Thank you, we're excited.
thank you.
Okay. And then at this point, we circle back.
Let's go ahead and finish, let's finish all of the business and then we'll go back, I think that'd be easier.
Okay.
Every year we have to put our fuel bid out, and typically we have more people show up for that and give us bids. However, that didn't happen this time, we only had Evergreen show up, and I presented you with the numbers, and I recommend that if we want gas, propane, and diesel, that we accept their bid.
Okay, so motion to award the diesel fuel, unleaded gasoline, and propane bids to Evergreen FS for the 2019-2020 school year.
So.
Motion made by James Kent, is there a second?
Second.
Eric Pearson, call roll please.
Kent,
Yes.
Leeper, yes. Pearson,
Yes.
Weldy,
Yes.
Guerrero.
Yes.
Next up, I think, it's time that we look to the possibility of talking to Tri-City for a cooperative agreement for boys basketball. I think we've probably been heading that direction for a while based upon participation and you know, just the sheer numbers of the kids, and not even maybe so much that as, when you actually go to a basketball game, and it just doesn't seem to have the enthusiasm and some of the fire that we've had in the past, and I just feel like it's time. It's the only sport that we do not currently co-op with another school, and all this is if you agree to it, is you're giving me permission to form a committee to reach out and sit down with a similar committee from Tri-City and try to talk about what that could look like. And then the committee can come back and present to the board. I don't know if this is something if you would wanna do, if we could turn around and do it within the next school year or not, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure of the deadlines, and I wasn't going to jump ahead to that without at least talking to you about the possibility of doing this and then sitting down and determining an interest with Tri-City, so.
Do we know what sort of, and I realize this would be what that committee would discuss, but just for my personal knowledge, do we know what sort of pep band type of activities they have over there? I assume they have a band and all those sorts of things, because of course that would be something that would be affected by our basketball consolidation. So I just didn't know if we knew what they have.
I couldn't tell you.
Okay. Well, again, that's a conversation for the committee to have. So.
I think that's all something we'll take into consideration, not only the pep band, but dance and cheer.
Yeah, all of those.
Location, is that gonna be?
Lots of conversations.
Yeah.
So at this time, we need a motion to form a committee to discuss the interest feasibility of a cooperative agreement for boys basketball with Tri-City.
So moved.
Motion made by Eric Pearson, is there a second?
Second.
Linda Weldy, call roll please.
Pearson,
Yes.
Weldy,
Yes.
Guerrero,
Yes.
Kent,
Yes.
Leeper, yes.
Okay. And then
The last item is the roof replacement. As I mentioned in my report to you guys, I was a little disappointed with the amount for the bids for the roof replacement of this section of of the high school, and I would just recommend that, I did have another company come out, I've not received a bid back from them yet. I would like to go ahead and table this, until the May board meeting, and hopefully I can come back to you with a little bit more information on what that could cost. I'm still waiting, for Trimco to present their findings. You know, we paid them $6,000 to do surveys of all of our roofs and core samples, and I've not seen any of that back yet. Well, it's very hard for me to say exactly what needs to be done to this roof without seeing that information. So until I see that, I think we kind of hold off on that. And that will affect our summer work, items, which I'll talk about during the superintendent's report.
So motion to table the discussion for the roof replacement at the high school until the May board meeting. Motion made by Martha Weaver, seconded by James Kent. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Okay, and then at this time, we'll circle back. Can you go phone officer before going?
Yes.
Okay. So do you want to, or shall I read it?
You could probably, we do need a motion to appoint Stephanie as our hearing officer for the student disciplinary.
So moved. Motion made by Martha Leeper, is there a second?
Second.
James Kent, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Then at this time, I'd like to, go into closed session. All right, so I need a motion to accept the closed session minutes as read in closed session.
So moved.
Motion made by Martha Leeper, is there a second?
Second.
Linda Waldy, call roll please.
Guerrero?
Yes?
Kent?
Yes.
Leeper? Yes. Pearson? Yes. Welby? Yes.
Okay. Need a motion to expel student SV 2019-3 for 2 years from April 17th, 2019 to April 1st, 2021, based on a preponderance of the evidence presented in the expulsion hearing and based on the board's determination that the student engaged in egregious conduct, that the student's continued presence at the school poses a threat to safety of other students and staff and substantially disrupts the operation of the school. The board further finds that given the severity of the student's gross misconduct, there are no other appropriate disciplinary interventions available, and that the presence of the student at school will foster a culture that the student's behavior at school is acceptable or tolerated. The expulsion shall be held in abeyance only if the student will enroll in an alternate school during the period of his expulsion. Student SV 2019-3 may return to Sangamon Valley on April 1st, 2021, pending successful completion and a recommendation from the alternative school. Motion
So moved.
by Eric Pearson, is there a second?
Second.
James Kent, call roll please.
Kent?
Yes.
Leeper? Yes. Pearson?
Yes.
Welby?
Yes.
Guerrero?
Yes. Motion to hire Holly Russell as an at-will benefited bus driver.
So moved.
Motion made by Martha Leeper.
Second.
Linda Waldy, call roll please.
Pearson?
Yes.
Welby?
Yes.
Guerrero?
Yes.
Kent?
Yes.
Leeper? Yes.
Motion to accept the resignation of Jeffrey Nees as an at-will full-time night custodian effective May 3rd, 2019.
So moved.
Motion made by James Kent, is there a second?
Second.
Eric Pearson, call roll please.
Welby?
Yes.
Guerrero?
Yes.
Kent?
Yes.
Leeper? Yes. Pearson?
Yes.
Motion to accept the resignation of Jessica Weitzel as high school freshman volleyball coach effective immediately.
So moved.
Motion made by James Kent, seconded by Martha Leeper, call roll please.
Welby?
Yes.
Guerrero?
Yes.
Kent?
Yes.
Leeper? Yes. Pearson?
Yes.
Motion, oh, nope, we're done.
That's it.
Yeah, so we need to go on to, consent agenda that everyone's received. Does anyone have any questions on the consent agenda this month? So we need a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Motion made by Martha Leeper, is there a second?
Second.
Linda Welby, call roll please.
Kent?
Yes.
Leeper? Yes. Pearson?
Yes.
Welby?
Yes.
Guerrero?
Yes. And the ice storm, Mr.
This is the time of year where we have a lot of awards coming in, and we're taking students to various breakfasts and lunches and such like that to recognize them for all their hard work, mostly seniors, during this time. I just wanted to kind of share some of those that we have done so far, and then also some others that are coming up. Just here, not too long ago, we had the Macon County Regional High School Principals Association, I know that's a mouthful, awards ceremony where we recognized 2 seniors from the school each year. And for that, when we were over Hickory Point Golf Course, this was in the paper I think last week, and Madison McKenzie Copel were recognized there, and it's a nice little banquet, and they got a little bit of a scholarship check from the association. We usually give the kids $100 and thank them for all their hard work and stuff over the course, and give them a pretty nice meal and just kind of sit around and enjoy each other's company. So that was pretty fun. Coming up, kind of a similar thing we do over at Yoder's with the LOVC, which will be our last year for that, is a Scholar Athlete Awards. And this go around, we're going to have Isaac Fleck and Taylor Page who are going to be recognized at that, because they have excelled on and off the field, both of which went to state scholars and stuff this year too, so very cool for them. So we'll recognize them that day with folks from the other schools over at Arthur. Also, I just found out before today, the Heartland Tech Academy, they have a student of the year that they recognize over there, and actually we had our student Luke Stacy, who was recognized as that. He's in the criminal justice program over there. He's in his 2nd year there, but he's been recognized by HTA over there with that. Senator for a Day, Andy Menard, our state senator here for our district, each year for the last couple years has done Senator for a Day. He served in that when he was in high school at Bunker Hill. I believe he got to go with Vince DiMuzio was a senator at that time, and he said it really was a life-changing experience for him. So he's really worked to bring that back since he's been in office. And we've had people go each year for the last 3 years, and this year we have 2 folks going. Taylor Page, a senior, and Karina Forshee, who's a senior. They both applied last year as juniors, and then reapplied this year because we did send a senior last year. And so they're getting to go and do that. They've been scheduling times with Senator Menard's office to get to go and hang out and kind of be out on the Senate floor and see how things work in Springfield, which is going to be a really neat experience for them. So I wanted to recognize them. And then also Taylor Page will be recognized early May at a student recognition breakfast with the Illinois Principals Association as an outstanding leader. So really proud of her for that. She's done a great job of taking younger students under her wing and being a good role model, in sports and also just in school in general. So she's going to be recognized for a lot of that during that day. And then also, along with the students that I wanted to recognize just here in the recent last couple weeks, some faculty members that have done some pretty cool stuff. And this is all money related. This is all about grants and scholarships, but it's kind of the time of year for them to start winning things. Brittany Callan has been bringing case curriculum with the ag program to Sangamon Valley for the last 2 years now with ag science. She started last year, was able to go to the Institute in the summertime and bring some of that back, and she's working with ag business and stuff now too. Well, she was able to get the scholarship for $2,000 again this year to go to the Case Institute again this summer, in which time I think she's going to be working on Intro to Ag maybe this time around. But it's a great curriculum that we've been really lucky to try to bring over here and implement. It's really just made our ag programs better, I think, with that. Mr. Joe Scandavino, I feel like I'm talking about Joe every meeting, but he had some more great news. He popped in the office to let me know that he and Ms. Kluge and the GAP program brought in about $2,960 for the GAP program in grants through the Goethe Institute, which are also sponsored by the U.S. and German government. So we got about 3 checks to go all towards the GAP program from that grant money, which is really tremendous for the kids and going to really help out with a lot of the fundraising with that. And then also Mr. Higby, new addition to the staff this year. Mr. Higby has been really working at trying to develop some advanced programs and stuff, and we're looking at changing a few things up with statistics next year, making that an AP class, and then having a calculus AP offering too. And he has had experience in doing that. Well, he applied for the AP Fellows Scholarship, which is going to pay for him $1,500 for him to go up to Plainfield this summer. And he'll do like kind of a 4-day workshop and training and stuff up there. It'll take care of his lodging and stuff like that so that he can kind of hone his craft on that. So really exciting stuff and cool stuff. Lots of professional development for the teachers that they're going out and beating the street and getting some of this stuff to happen. And folks are recognizing the good work that we're doing, and they're saying, heck yeah, we'll put you up. So really cool. And I just wanted to share that with you guys because I thought that was really good news, as well as all the great things our students are doing. So, thank you.
Awesome. All right, on to the superintendent's report.
All right. I provided a list of summer work items. And I wanted to get out a little bit earlier than what I had done in the past, where I just handed you a list and said, let's do it. Sit down with Bruce and Jason. I think these things are all realistic and things we can do. They do cost money, however, and that is a factor. At the primary building, we're looking at adding mulch again. I think Mrs. Wellbaum is looking into the possibility of some new equipment and what that could possibly look like. I'm not sure where we are on that, but if that doesn't come through, I think we need to freshen up the mulch a little bit, and we will do that right at the beginning of the school year. And looking back at what we had purchased in the past, about $4,000 worth of special, the way that they grind it, it's not just like what you would put out around a flower bed. It is a special grade that is approved specifically for playgrounds. So I think that's something that we need to do. They'll come and deliver it, and then with our new tractor and bucket, our guys will be able to spread it this year without having to rent any type of equipment, which is kind of nice. We talked about the possibility of moving the pre-K sheds, and I'm not sure where I would like to locate those yet, but I would like to kind of clear out the space behind the buildings as much as possible, so that when we're releasing kids out in mass quantities at a time, that we have a nice, relatively clear sight line to see what they're kind of running out to. It's more of a safety issue than anything, and one of them does need a floor, and I thought maybe we could do that all at once. So I'll work with Ms. Wellbaum and with the maintenance crew and try to find a decent location for those that might be easier access for the kids, and also might provide a little bit more safety for behind the schools there. The climbing wall, it currently is located along the wall where we used to have fold out lunch tables. I talked to Belinda this week, and I don't think that you've ever seen the fold out tables.
I hated the fold out.
Right, but they covered them with plywood, I think.
Now, we still have
On the
two
end,
that are
there are.
exposed
Mhm.
at the end of it.
And we took a look at those Monday, and now the company that's looking into it has asked us to pull a set of those out. So Bruce and Jason are gonna work on that tomorrow and try to take pictures and get measurements. And so with doing that, we would have to move the climbing wall over to the south wall, which is not really that big of a deal. I think the guys can easily handle that. The expensive part comes in at retrofitting the tables. And basically what we would like to do is look at the possibility of retrofitting 6 of the 8 available slots there. And the fire marshal has been on us for quite a while to not have those tables in the hallway. And I think that this one's going to push it a little bit more than what we've had in the past, and rightfully so. They're dangerous. The kids get in them, climb in them, hide in them, and it's really not an ideal situation. And I know that, well, we've done it for a long time, and that's how it's been done, and I think we've gotten lucky. And I think that, I can check in the possibility of paying for the tables out of health, life, safety and use out of that fund as opposed to, taking it out of, our 60 account, which is the sales tax money.
So the retrofitting would then be to begin actually using, once they're retrofitted, using the fold-down tables out of the walls as opposed to the.
As opposed to the ones that are currently sitting in the hallway that we bring in. And I think it'll create a lot, better space for the kids during lunch. It will also allow, I think, for quicker cleanup and, will allow them to get in and start using that space for PE. So, it is pricey. I think I've estimated a little bit high, but I wanted to do that. It's much easier to come in to you and say, hey, I think this is gonna come in a little bit lower than what I have estimated. So that was $8,000 per table. Another thing we're looking at doing is doing the middle 6, and then we would have 2 spaces on the end. And the company showed me some pictures of where they had created storage out of those, where they actually put whatever countertop is gonna be on our tables, they would use that as the doors for the storage area, so everything would look nice and slick and matching. And then that would create space for the PE department for storage too. So, and that is much less expensive as being 2 more additional fold-down tables. And if something happened, if we grew and we needed the extra tables, then we could always change those back out again. So I would recommend that you seriously consider those items for the primary building. At the intermediate building, since we are probably going to need to do something with the gym floor, I think it's a good time to do some, well, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. Cafeteria first, I would like to improve the lighting, put LED lights in the cafeteria and do it at the same time that we're working on doing the lights in the gym. And I looked up the lights. Again, I think I'm a little bit high on the cost of those lights, but I think we can easily do it for a couple $1,000. There are 3 sinks over in the girls' bathroom in the intermediate building that need to be replaced and have new water-saving faucets on, and I estimate that at $1,200. So those 2 items together, I think over the course of probably the first few years of operation would end up paying for themselves. You've already approved the tree removal at the middle school and the high school. I just went ahead and added those on there as, you know, we still have to pay for it even though you approved those. So I would recommend that we continue on with that. I'm not sure when they're gonna do it. I would probably guess at this point, maybe they just will wait until after school's out. I mentioned the lights in the gym. With the gym floor needing to be repaired, I think it's a good time to get the scissor lift. That is a pretty heavy unit, and you take a chance when getting out on there of damaging boards and or scuffing boards. So it makes sense to go ahead before we get into actually finishing and repairing the floor that we do the lights in the gym for roughly $7,200. And again, that's an item that I think over the course of probably the first few years will pay for itself. The gym floor repair I estimated at $38,000. I met with a gentleman today who says that price will be closer to $18,000, which is a $20,000 cost savings, which we can certainly use. Again, that's one of those items I don't really see how we can not do it. We have to have the floor where it's safe and playable. He's talking about doing approximately 100 square feet of the floor, and basically what they'll do is they'll come in and they'll tear out the damaged floor, and then they'll come in and they'll stagger the joints and put the new floor in, and it will, I don't think when it's finished you'll be able to tell where you put the new floor in. And then what they'll do, they'll sand it and kind of stain it to match the rest of it, and once they get it to that finish, then they'll kind of screen the entire floor and put a poly coat over the entire floor. So that $18,000 will cover the cost of having the entire floor resurfaced. And I think another coat of poly on that floor will go a long way to stopping additional shrinking of the boards in the future.
And this is the same place where we had the issue last year,
Yes.
the same area?
Yes. I think what happened was there was more moisture underneath than what we expected. And I think I gave you two bids, back. One was to tear it out, and we decided to try this. But I think doing it this way, or doing what we did last year, and then coming back in and doing this additional cost, still came in about $12,000 cheaper than the first bid they came in was to tear out the floor and fix it. So we're still ending up being a little bit of money ahead, so. Moving on to the high school, again, I put the tree removal on there. Right now I only have one bid. I called 6 different contractors and met with 3, and I have one bid for the parking lot repair. And this is something that, as you pulled in, you probably noticed, we're gonna have to do. And whether we take that money out of operation maintenance or if we take it out of working cash, it's really neither here nor there, but I think it's something that we need to do. Moving on, exhaust fans in our restrooms here at the high school. That was something that was on our health, life, safety item.
Can I back up one
Oh,
second?
yeah, sorry.
The parking lot bid is only what is asphalted right now, you're not going over into the expanded
Correct.
one? Okay.
It's this whole section behind the high school, and then it kind of wraps around over to in front of the roll-up door of the shop. It also continues on down to the gym entrance. And then there's a tiny little patch out by the road. There will be some concrete work that will need to be done prior to that, and we've had Hutchins come in and take a look at that. I do not have a bid on that yet, but hopefully by the next time we get around, I can include that in to the parking lot repair. So it's kind of an expensive deal, but it was, before we started the greenhouse and all that, it was in disrepair. And in meeting with this guy, I'm confident that I think we can come up with a much better, much safer end product than what we had. It'll be more level. There will not be a lot of the transitions that we have, like right over here where you step down onto the concrete and then you have another step up. I think when it's all said and done, that we'll have a nice smooth surface coming into our buildings. It's much safer for people coming in and out of buildings.
Sorry.
That's okay. Tuck pointing and, the exhaust fans in the restroom, again, there was something that was on our health, life, safety. That's something that we need to have. They should be running constantly. We have some that do not operate at all, so we need to fix that. The tuck point and sealing the brick on the science lab, we have some paint boiling in a couple different locations in the science lab. We also have places where water is actually dripping into the building and coming down our new walls and paint, and it's kind of frustrating that wasn't, I don't know, maybe picked out by the architect at the time and said, hey, maybe we need to look into sealing that part of the building a little bit better, or before the windows were measured, maybe we should have done something more with the lintels, which is the steel beam that kind of supports the brick above the windows. That's neither here nor there. I'm not sure what that will come in, but I really feel like, again, that's a project that I'd hate to let our new science lab that we spent all that money on to just continue to deteriorate over time. And the tuck pointing and the ceiling is something we may have to look at doing sections of the buildings and attacking the worst sections first, where we're seeing the paint actually bubbling off the wall. But for right now, I think we can focus on the high school library area and get it sealed off and then move on from there. The roof replacement, we have tabled until next time. Hopefully I will have a much lower bid. When this new bid comes in, if it's considerably lower, what I'll probably end up having to do is going back to Trimco and saying, okay, where is the difference here? And I think where the difference in cost is going to be is Trimco bid the job out as a complete tear-off, whereas this company seems to think there's insulation built up around the edges, so the water kind of flows down to the center of the building. There's 2 drains that come down through the center of the building. and then tie into the drainage system. And he seems to think he did core samples in our worst areas down where the sandbags are, and the insulation either had very minimal moisture or none at all. And he also thought even with a little bit of moisture in there that it would eventually dry up over time if he left the insulation in place and just put a new vinyl. It's not really vinyl, it looks almost like a swimming pool liner. So that's what he's looking into. If his bid comes back and it's not much cheaper, then I would say, we're probably gonna have to bite the bullet and do the complete tear off and go with trim fill. But again, that whole process has been a little bit frustrating because it came in much higher than what the initial bid was for. And I think that might be something that maybe we look into of entering an agreement with NG on. That the roof replacement or sections of the roof and the various locations of the buildings are in that bid, included in that price with NG. So I think that's something that hopefully by June we'll have an idea of the direction that we would like to go and what we want to include with NG's bid. The visitor press box. Michael came to me, and the problem that they have is that I thought our press box was plenty big to fit both the visiting coaches crew and ours in. Ours typically go clear up to the top, which leaves 2 sections on each side of the main press box where they can go in, they can close doors. Anyway, a lot of other schools are going to this to separate the coaching staffs and keep them away from each other. Chris Hiley would like to is interested in doing some of the work. Most of this cost is strictly materials. I did have I missed a part, some framing pieces. So that bid actually is about $2,000 higher than what I had put in your report. So instead of $64.18, or instead of $44.18, it is now at $64.18. And that's something that, again, you guys can talk about whether we really need to do that or not. This does not count, or take into account the fact that we probably have to rent a trencher and a trench power over to this press box. And we probably do that from I'll do it with the staff that we have, and it'll come from the bus garage.
How was the school involved when you built this press box? Did you buy materials then, or did?
I was not here. That was done, I believe, before I came to the high school, if I remember correctly. And most of that was done through donations and.
I know I donated wood, but I don't remember other than that where they got it.
I think it was all carrot, booster club, the sports booster, or whatever, gridiron. Yeah. Sorry, yes.
And do they have anything they'd like to contribute toward it? Gridiron?
Well, the gridiron is looking to put some money into, we spent some money on our sprinkler system last year. Well, what they would like to do is to dig trenches from where our current, as of right now, it's all piped in. It comes over to the edge of the football field over in this corner where everybody kind of goes in and out. What they're proposing, what the gridiron would like to do is spend some money and bring the line straight from the ditch right up by the long jump, what do you call that? Pit, or the actual track that you run down to get to the pit. They would like to, they're going to work on that, and then that way our hose reel that we purchased can set back in that area and not have to drag the hose and not also have that trip hazard. Everything will be below ground level, all the attachments, all the hookups. So it'll be a little bit nicer than what we have, and that's what they would like to spend their money on. I don't know. I think I sat in a deer stand one time at Arthur when I was the coach that went to the press box. So having a press box like this where you could, get away from everybody, it seemed to me like that was sufficient. Apparently other schools are going to this, so, if you wanna go that route, if we wanna continue to maybe try to raise some funds for that, I would understand that as well. We got a lot going on. If we finish the roof over this building, I would like to remove the carpet in Scans and Mr. Spath's room. That would be at no cost, we'd have staff do that. However, then there would be the cost of putting tile back into those rooms, which I estimated about $6,000 a room. They're pretty good sized rooms, but the carpet needs to go. Unfortunately, it's been in bad shape for a long time, and it needs to go. So the last item is the high school art room, which I have down as optional, and then again, all these things are estimates. What we will have to do is we will have to probably gut the art room and at least put new subfloor, an underlayment, and then tile it as well. And all the other stuff, the new cabinets, the hot water heater, HVAC, ceiling tile, lighting, and that, we could get by without doing that. And that's a project that then at that point could be turned over to NG. Because my plan for the HVAC in that particular area is considerably different than what NG's plan was. And I think that you probably need, and we need to look at their plan and see if that's the direction that you wanna go. I was considering the mini splits like she had quoted for Harristown, which are the ceiling mounted units. And they're talking about using the existing boiler system and then running a cooling coil in there as well, and having large condensers on top of the roofs that would then cool the classrooms. So I think that's a very feasible option, and I would say at this point, I think my recommendation would be do the bare minimum in the high school art room and see what NG has to, for that area.
And we will revisit this at the May meeting as far as what we're going to proceed with.
Yeah. And what I'll do is hopefully by then I can clean up some of the overall costs. And if you guys, I don't really know how that would be best, if you reach out to me individually maybe and decide whether, I think taking the art room off is probably the best thing to do for now.
I almost think too, if you're gonna turn potentially any of it over to NG, they would almost wanna do their work before, and the floor would go in last, wouldn't it?
Well, right now, as it stands, I don't believe that they would not do any additional, piping to that room. There might be some work that will be done, I guess, above floor grade, but nothing underneath. So the floor is at a point where it has, the current radiator up there has leaked, and it's gotten into the floor, and it has warped the floor, and it needs to be done, it needs to be fixed. So I don't think doing any of that would be necessarily affecting anything that NG would do. Of course, the HVAC and the ceiling tile and lighting, that would. And those are the things that I think I need to take off of there.
And the majority of this, with the exception of the tables, you would do out of the sales tax? Okay. I just think we can.
Or, I don't know, I need to check where we end up with the sales tax. We may have to, depending on the roof cost, we may have to use some working cash to do these projects. Once we decide what, I can kind of get an idea of what we could take out of each fund to cover what I think we need to do and present that to you before the next meeting.
I kind of like to see too, I don't know if you've broken it down yet, this, the amount of square footage of roofing they're doing under this as opposed to what NG's doing, so we can kind of tabulate those costs.
Well, I can certainly, figure their cost on this per square foot and then take a look at NG's.
Okay.
She did tell me, we talked about that today, and she did tell me that some of Trimco's proposal was to do a refurbishing of roofs where their plan was to take it all off, and that would provide a better bang for the buck. And her figures, she says, and I've not double checked this, cause again, we just looked at it tonight, are actually lower than what Trimco's proposed cost was to do some complete replacement and then some refurbishing of roofs. But I will dig into that a little more thoroughly and find out if that's accurate.
I think that was the only number in her thing that kind of stuck out in my mind as being what I thought was high, but I've never worked three whole buildings before either, so. All right, so I guess, I mean, my thought process on this is just to all of us review, get the other two members, and then maybe, we just all come in with a list of priorities and then see what reaches the top. Do you think that's the easiest way?
Yeah, there should be a little bit, it's gonna take a little bit of time, but we should have a little bit more discussion on it.
Okay, sounds good. Anything else for this evening?
Food service?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, it's like.
yeah, well, we're not done with the superintendent's report.
No,
I'm ready to go.
I was closing it up too.
Food service update, there's really not a whole lot to tell. I do have two companies, OPA and Aramark, that have shown interest, and they came to the pre-bid meeting. I answered several questions from them. I sent the questions to ISB. They sent them back to me and said, okay, we're approved on that, go ahead and send them out to OPA and to Aramark, so I've done that. So I'm hoping that by next Thursday that we will have some bids to see what this food service could look like and what the cost per meal is gonna end up being. So I'm excited about that I've jumped through all of ISB soup and hoops and in good form this time, and so hopefully we can actually get a bid. And then I invited the officers to tour the Mint and Central A&M, who both worked with NG in the past, and we did that last Wednesday. We went and toured the Mint, and we got to see firsthand not only what NG was able to do for their district, but then we also had an opportunity to sit down with the superintendent and talk about positives and negatives and that sort of thing. And we went to Central A&M, we did the same thing. Central A&M actually closed the building and refurbished this area of their middle school in Assumption. That was really pretty amazing, the transformation of what they were able to do with this. So it was nice again to be able to speak with both superintendents and ask questions, and I don't know if you guys want to.
I just thought that the Central A&M was a good comparison because the buildings were more like ours, where the Mint was, what'd you say, 1872 or 92, their buildings were,
Really?
yeah, they were extremely old, and they looked good, I mean, they were good, but it
Beautiful
was,
buildings.
right, it was a much different, I think Central A&M's compared more to ours and what was done, and just a little more updated to start with, but, I thought it was, and then they all seemed very positive and loved their construction managers.
Yes, they all had wonderful, I mean, nobody was unhappy with NG and their construction manager. They all were very positive.
I thought it was good. All right.
A couple other items that I wanted to just touch base on. Ms. Waldbaum has been working on a title grant for some more money is available, which we were able to look at the possibility of writing an amendment to our title grants and asking for more money, and I'm pretty certain that has come back approved, and that allowed us somewhere around $19,000 to spend on technology over at the primary building.
Awesome.
And we're gonna have some Apple pencils.
I don't know what they are.
What do the Apple pencils do?
As long as I don't have to use them as Google Docs, we're good.
They just work on the iPad, so it's kind of like a stylus, but it looks like a pencil, and so the kids can have the pencil grip. So like the K's, when they're doing tracing of letters, they're not using their finger, they're actually using a pencil.
Learning how to write.
Correct.
Awesome.
So I think we're looking at the possibility of adding some iPads and another cart.
Yes. Yeah, cards, iPads, headphones, cases. So then I'm also thinking about color coordinating everything, so like the title will have blue cases, and the library will have black cases, the classrooms will have certain color cases as well, so then it's, what we talked about today, Carrie and I talked about that today. Yeah.
Dare I ask about preschool grants?
It's open. Yeah, so we're working on it.
Okay.
It's gonna be a feast, but we'll get there. June 10th is the cutoff date for that. So, and then it's a 90-day approval, so June 10th, 90 days, we're already started school, but if we can get another program started, that's what I'd like to do, so. We'll see.
Well, Riverton is where you came from, right? And they've always had real good luck with they have a couple of different things going up there, I'm sure you did.
They have lots of different yeah, I think they have 4 classrooms maybe that service 8 sections, so they do half day as well, so, yeah. I can definitely get in contact, and Mr. Meadows got in contact with another superintendent. Yeah, we've been looking at other, school districts, how they've been writing them.
Good.
So, yeah.
I'm gonna take everything I have crossed.
Me too.
Just in case. All right, your other items?
That was the other item.
Oh, I thought you had items.
That is quite, that's a couple title and pre-K, is that not a couple?
Oh, did I jump in? Appreciate it.
Yes.
Sorry, I burst your bubble. All right, sorry about that.
And now
I
that's
didn't know
it.
that was coming. All right, so then, we have a special board meeting to be held at 6 p.m. on April 24th in order to seat the, board members that were just elected, and that should be brief. And then the next regular board meeting will be held May 8th, which is also a different date than normal, at 6 p.m.
Can I say one more thing real quick? We are kind of in a holding pattern with the school, calendar. Martha emailed me earlier and asked where we were on that, and I have kind of come up with a proposed calendar, and it's gone to the SBA and their calendar committee, and they've approved a tentative one, and it's come back to me, but, until our legislators finally decide what a school day actually is, and that, it's through IWAS, and it's been closed, and usually in February, you can get in and you can create a tentative calendar, and you send that to the ROE, and they approve it, and they send it to ISB, and then they approve it, and so we've not been able to do that. I do have a calendar that gives a start date. Erica put that together for me, and I think maybe what I can do is bring that to our board meeting in May, and you can take a look at that, and I don't know if we can improve it that way. I don't see why we couldn't. We don't have to necessarily have the ISB document, and hopefully by then maybe it might be a situation where I'll have to go in and tweak a few things, but I don't think it will affect the main thing, which is our start dates. And one of the things that we wanted to do for next year is have 2 Teacher Institute days at the beginning of the school year, because we have so much to try to do, and then we're also gonna get some speakers coming in and do training for various topics with teachers. So that will be one difference that we've not done. We did it a while back, but we kinda got away from it, but we're gonna do that again. And then tomorrow we have a full day of activities planned for the teachers. A lot of round robin things going on within the building here at the high school, and I think for lunch and our presenters, we're in it for about $800, and we're getting 70 teachers a full day of professional development and CPD use, so it's a great bang for the buck, and thanks to our administrators and Mr. Field for putting all that stuff together.
And then
Should be a good day.
will we have info in May on F&P for 3 through 5, or is that gonna be,
3's already got,
well, yeah.
4 and 5, they've not released the, like, we kinda know what the prices are gonna be, but they won't generate a quote for about another month or so, maybe not even the whole month. But I've been in talks with our rep on that already, but August is when they release the materials, so I mean, it's kinda gonna be where we were at with buying 3rd grade stuff this year. It won't even, it was close to September before we even were able to get our hands on it this year, so.
So is it something we would consider waiting until the next year,
No,
or just go ahead and do it?
they were ready to string me up
Okay.
today. So, I think the quicker I can get it to them, the better off I'm gonna be personally, but no,
I
I
just
think,
didn't know if they wanted it in their hands earlier than the first day of school,
I think
so.
they just want it when they can get it,
Okay.
because they're that hungry for it. And they'll be able to, they're kind of doing things now, like I know at fourth grade, Mrs. Hawkins was talking about, she's already using some of the third grade stuff, because even having that, I think as soon as she can get something out, Mrs. Wheeler is the same way. Just whenever they can get it, let's get it, they don't care if it's December, but, they can, be ready to implement and be ready to go, so.
Well, in the meantime, we'll try to schedule a meeting with the curriculum committee and administrators and, look at what we purchased and make sure that we're utilizing all of that and making sure we're spending the money where we need to.
Perfect. All right, so do you have anything else? So then I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion made by Eric Pearson is our second.
Second.
Linda Weldy, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes, 7:26.